Hello, thanks for joining me, astrologer Patrick Arundell, for your in-depth horoscope forecast for week commencing the 12th of August for the Sun or the Ascendant. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, I'd be honoured if you did so now. This week kicks off with Jupiter starting to go forwards after a 4-month backward journey. That's something we can all celebrate. Jupiter is about expansion, it's about travel, it's about philosophy, higher education, anything to do with overseas connections, but it's also to do with a kind of essential fairness. And over the last 4 months, if there have been parts of our existences which seem to have been bogged down and restrained in some way, I do feel that things can start to pick up. Now, Jupiter is supported superbly by Mercury, which moves on Monday into the sign of Leo. It's actually coming back into this sign after its retrograde, and by the middle of this week is fully out of shadow. And this is going to see us all feeling much more outward going, much more upbeat, and a little less introverted. Its rotation through the sign of Cancer does bring a more emotional and watery element to the logic that Mercury asks us to embrace. But it is true on Monday that Uranus, the planet of freedom and of rebelliousness, does go into a retrograde itself, which will last until the 10th of January next year. I think if you have been making some changes to the foundations of your world, especially those that are more innovative, it's possible that some experiments haven't worked, and the interim period will ask us to look at those things afresh and to perhaps settle down the things that have been going well and perhaps find other things that may complement the different and innovative approaches we have been trying. But this is a week when there is also a full moon, and this full moon occurs in the friendly democratic sign of Aquarius. But with the Sun and Venus still in a glorious alliance all through this week, I think really what the Aquarius full moon is asking us to do is just apply a little bit of detachment to the things that we do feel passionate about, or the relationships that are really engaging our thinking, or perhaps it's a romance or a creative strand. It's about balancing, toggling between what's good for us as individuals and what we need to do to connect with other people. So if we get too caught up in our own agendas, that won't necessarily be such a good thing. Now, Mars is going to be leaving the sign of Leo this week and making its way into the sign of Virgo, where it's going to be through to the 3rd of October. Now, Mars moving into Virgo is an interesting one because Mars is about I, and it's certainly been emphasising that in its transit over the last 6 weeks through Leo. In the sign of Virgo, it's more to do with virtuousness, and it's therefore more about what we can do for others, being of service, but also making sure that we use the extra energy it gives us in an industrious, practical and productive way. So if we can get fitter, if we can sort out our diets a little bit more, if we can organise our existence to the point that they're working really superbly well, then we'll be surfing the energy of Mars really very successfully. So Mars in this area is a much more productive, practical and busy influence, not quite so social. But that social factor that has been so powerful in the heavens in recent weeks is still very, very strong this week. It is just finding that balance. But I think the combination of the Sun and Venus is glorious, and Jupiter going forwards is something that we can all savour. Your specific forecast, Aquarius, is absolutely fascinating because Uranus, your modern ruler, slams on the brakes and goes into a retrograde which will last through to the 10th of January. I think this could point towards a rethink around your home or family situation. If there has been unsettled conditions, perhaps going back about a year and a quarter when, if you remember, May 2018, Uranus first moved into Taurus but clashed with Mars in your sign, then I think the next few months could see you retracing some steps or other people coming back to you. However, Jupiter, the planet of fortune and expansion, is going forwards from the start of this week in an extremely friendly and optimistic part of your scope. What's not to like? Through to the 3rd of November, use this opportunity to really shine out those Aquarius energies of democracy and fairness and friendliness in all that you do. Also, Mercury, the planet of communication, moves out of a bit of a brittle location and moves into the sign of Leo, joining up initially with the Sun and Venus and Mars. Now, the Sun and Venus are combining for the 3rd consecutive week. This is just absolutely gorgeous and can be great if you are meeting someone for a first date, or you're wanting to add more fire to a long-standing tie which perhaps has got a little bit too predictable. However, the full moon this week occurs in your sign, but this means therefore that because Venus is combining with the Sun, we kind of have basically a Venus opposite ascendant influence. So your popularity could peak this week, or it's possible that if a relationship isn't working for you and you feel that you've really bent over backwards to make it work, you may decide that there's no option, however much you want to let someone down quietly, that you want to make your way to the door marked exit. And that energy is going to come through in the guise of Mars, which is going to smash down the door called freedom if you really don't feel that your commitment, your passion and your sincerity are being reciprocated by the other person. Or perhaps it's just a case that the chemistry isn't working. And Mars in the 8th solar house is all about chemistry. And through to the 3rd of October, you are going to be feeling mightily passionate and even sultry when it comes to expressing your deepest emotions. Now, of course, Aquarius people, myself included, are said to be totally detached when it comes to the game of love. Well, it is true that Mercury moving into the 7th solar house is very good for maintaining that detachment. But I think that combination of the full moon in your sign, the Sun and Venus combining, and Mars making its way into the deep 8th house, suggests that if you have got a desire to be much more in touch with what really excites you, this is certainly a week when you're going to show that. It's been a real pleasure being with you, Aquarius. If you'd like to know more about personal astrology based on your time, date and place of birth, I'd love it if you join me at my chart store. Please click on the link beneath this video. If you buy a combination of a 12-month forecast and a character analysis, I'll give you a 30% discount. Or equally, you could choose to have a one-to-one with me personally. But for now, good luck and goodbye.